Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we have something incredibly cool to take a look at today because we finally have something new from Adventure Force. If you do know who Adventure Force is, you'll probably remember them from visiting Walmart, and I have also reviewed a lot of their stuff in the past, but they have a lot of really cool figures out. Nothing's really highly accurate or anything, but they have some really cool kind of Jurassic Park inspired dinosaurs and just some random dinosaurs like an Allosaurus, a Carnotaurus, all of that really cool stuff that you see at Walmart for like $8 or $9, which I think is an incredible deal for figures like that, so big. But this time we have a brand new figure from them, and you can also see that it's a lot smaller than those larger figures are. Now, the interesting thing about this is I don't know exactly how much this guy costs, but if I were a betting man, I would say he's right around the $2 range, which is crazy to say that this figure would be about $2 because it has that smaller kind of like $1.97 price range sort of look to it. I actually acquired this from a viewer of the channel who was kind enough to help me acquire some of the current round of Jurassic World minifigures, but he also had told me that he found some new Adventure Force stuff at his Walmart, and one of which was this one. So the price, I'm pretty sure, is $1.97 or so for this. But we have an Atrociraptor, and not only that, we have a feathered version of an Atrociraptor from Adventure Force, and that is super, super cool because I definitely did not expect a feathered dinosaur from the Adventure Force line. And even if it's not your most accurate interpretation of an Atrociraptor, I still think it looks really neat. They definitely did a very good job on the fine detail of it, even though it has that kind of trademark sort of appearance from Adventure Force. You know, for an Atrociraptor like this in this price range and this quality, that's very impressive because this would normally, from any other company, be probably like a $10 to $12 figure. And again, Adventure Force coming through with a really conveniently priced release. But right now, we're going to go ahead and jump to a closer look to see just how good this Atrociraptor really is. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can straight away see, if you are familiar with the other figures that are at Walmart that are like $1.97, you can straight away see the similarities in not only the fine detail, but also the like teeth and mouth, and everything just looks very much so like those other figures at Walmart. So you can sort of see that cheap kind of visual of this figure, but at the same time, you know, it does still have a pretty decent look to it. There is a little bit of color variation that we have going on here in the face with some variations of blues. We also have that kind of like light yellowish tone there in the palate area. You can also see an orangish coloration and a black pupil for the eyes. The teeth aren't really painted that great. They also don't really look that great. They're kind of big and bulky and, you know, look kind of toy-like, but I mean, it's a toy, so I guess I understand. You can see there is a tongue sculpted there on the inside of the mouth, and it's been given kind of like a purplish sort of tone. And we see that for the majority of the inside of the mouth. It's a very light application of that tone, though, because you can kind of see like the bluish tones creeping through it. So it is just very, very lightly been painted with that color. And it actually might be a little bit more of a pinkish tone, more so than a purple. But as you move back, again, you lead along through the face, you have that skin textured sort of look, but as you lead back here, you do begin to pick up some feathering, and you can see the feathering is kind of fine as we begin to lead into the neck. You can also see a little area here of kind of like an orange sort of stripe that leads through the neck, which kind of adds some kind of cool color variation to the figure. I do quite like that, actually. And as you move down a little bit further, you continue to see the feathers stay sort of fine, but as you lead into the body, they just get a little bit bigger, a little bit scruffier, sort of turning into almost emu-like feathering. But the actual sculpting of the feathering and everything isn't incredible. You know, it looks okay for what it is, but as you can see as you move along, it's almost a little bit generic in most areas. Not incredibly high quality, but again, this is a super cheap figure, so it's already exceeding my expectations by a mile when it comes to the price range and the amount of figure and paint you get for a price like that. But you can see we also have a black here running along the top, or like a very dark gray, so we do have a good bit of color variation. We also have, again, those bluish tones down here on the side, and as we lead down into the arms, you do have some nice looking plumage as you lead out. You can see, again, we have a very different style of feathering compared to what we see through the rest of the figure, again with more emu-like feathering through the rest of the figure, but we have a much nicer display of plumage leading down into the arm, and the feather detail does look pretty nice here, like especially in that spot right there. I like that area. As you lead through, you can also see quite a bit of color variation. You can even see some dry brushing with like a blackish tone, and then again like a yellowish tone here leading off of the edge of the feathers. You can even see almost like an orangish wash that's been applied, but then we also have a dark dry brushing over this area here to just add again quite a bit of color variation. And I think what they did do here with the colors looks pretty good and pretty natural. There isn't really a whole lot when it comes to really fine detail on the feathers, but they look okay for what they are. You can see a nail right there, but that's really all we have going on. Like, I don't actually see fingers or anything or multiple nails. I really only see the one nail, almost giving it kind of like a Mononychus sort of a look, which is an interesting idea on the part of Adventure Force. You can also see that we have some bluish tones here for the undersides of the feathers on the arm. As we move along here through the course of the body, you lead back here. You don't really have much in the way of detailing in the hip region or anything, but you can definitely make out the kneecap. You sort of see some muscle definition in the thigh and calf, not so much in the thigh, maybe slightly, but the calf you can kind of see a little bit of a bulge of the calf muscle. As you lead down though, you can see that the feathers transition away, and then we have kind of like a light tone down here for the foot. We have some okay looking detailing. We've got like some scoots down the toes, and we sort of have nails painted. They're painted with a black, but rather than carefully painting the nails, they just kind of airbrushed over, so you can see the black has kind of spread to the toes themselves, which, you know, again, for $1.97, how much effort are they really going to put into the paint job of a figure like this? Like, they've already done more than I expected. Unfortunately, we don't have dew claws on the figure, which, you know, at this point, it seems kind of like the least of our worries when we also only have like one finger up here in the hands. The missing dew claw isn't really that big of a deal, I guess, but I would have really liked to have seen it. But as you move out the length of the tail, you can see a pretty nice curve to the tail, leading down as you lead out and slightly turned toward its left. And you can also see, again, a really nice display of plumage of feathers out here on the end of the tail. And I will say, I think the feather detail of these feathers looks a little bit nicer than the feather detail we had seen on the arms. And then on the underside, we also have some really nice orangish tones, almost like red-orange, as you move along the underside of the Atrociraptor, and you can also see the name of the species right there. But as we continue to move along, again, that area looks quite nice, and I actually do enjoy the coloration, those tones of colors on the underside. As we look here at the head sculpt, you can see the head's facing away from us, so there is a slight turn in the neck. You can again see that orange stripe over here on the neck like we had seen on the initial side. Moving down a little further, you can see the arm is kind of held like back into the body a little bit. You can kind of see the elbow held back toward the body, and it's also sort of hiding the stomach region, so we can't really get a very good look at it. We kind of had that same thing going on over here, but I do quite like the positioning of the arms. Again, the feather detail, the paintwork, everything looks pretty similar on this side compared to what we had just seen on the initial side. You can kind of see a little stretching of the skin leading off of the stomach right there into the back of the leg. And again, the actual muscle definition, you can really see it defined in the calf over here, sort of in the thigh. Same style foot sculpt, same style paint and everything down here. And then we lead out again to that nice curve in the tail. But honestly, for, again, $1.97, it's a pretty cool figure. And even if it's not the best interpretation and not the most accurate interpretation of an Atrociraptor, it is a feathered Atrociraptor from Adventure Force. So, I mean, you can't really complain too much, and it actually would be a pretty fun figure to practice repainting skills on, because it's a decently sculpted figure for the most part, and, you know, for such a cheap price range, it would definitely be a fun figure to kind of just practice painting. But still, again, pretty cool overall, even if it's not that great. So as far as a size goes on our Atrociraptor, for a length from the snout to the tip of the tail, about 8.5 inches, or around 21.5, approaching 22 centimeters, and then for a height, about 4 inches or 10 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Atrociraptor, and you can see again, it's got a fairly decent size to it. Like, it's nowhere near as large as the, you know, other Adventure Force figures, like those larger ones, but it still has a fairly decent size to it overall. It's on the smaller side, that's for sure, but not all that small. And for more evidence of that, here is the Safari Ltd. Deinonychus next to the Atrociraptor here, and this shows you that they're pretty similar, honestly, in size. Positioned a little bit different, and obviously a way higher quality figure when it comes to the Safari Ltd. Deinonychus, but they're not too far off as far as the size goes. We've also got the Safari Ltd. Velociraptor. Now this time you can see again that the Atrociraptor here is a bit larger than the Velociraptor from Safari Ltd., but kind of similar in size. Overall, just the proportions are a bit uglier on the Atrociraptor, more so than what we see on the Velociraptor. We've also got the Mojo Fun Troodon, if we're going to continue to go with similar style figures of this size range. So if you happen to have the Mojo Fun Troodon, you'll have a pretty good idea, I think, of the size of this Atrociraptor. And then for another comparison, here is a Mattel Velociraptor to help give you an idea of a size. You can see they are very similar in size as well. A little bit larger would be the Atrociraptor, but not too far off. And then for one final comparison, and to show you the difference in size here, we have one of the larger versions of the Adventure Force figures, as we have the Velociraptor next to this smaller version of the Atrociraptor. And you can see a very big difference in size between these two different figures. Also a bit of a difference in quality. I would definitely say the Adventure Force Velociraptor, the larger figure there, is way better as far as the actual paintwork and, you know, the precision of the application of the paint and everything. But still really cool to at least have something new entering this line, even if it is in the smaller size range. So this brand new Atrociraptor, the Adventure Force Atrociraptor, is pretty fun. You know, he's not great, but he's not terrible. He definitely has some downsides, like the fact that, you know, like the proportions are off a little bit. The legs are just kind of, I think, too thick. The feet are too thick. The fact that it's missing a dew claw is a downside. The hands look weird. Kind of reminds me almost of the recent Schleich Gallimimus, where you can't really make out like what's going on with the hands or the fingers or anything. This one, again, almost appears to just have like one finger, similar to like a Mononychus, which I don't know why they would have done that. But outside of that, once you move past those issues, I think that some of the other areas look all right. Like the feather detail looks fairly okay in some areas. And from, you know, a step back, the overall visual of the figure is pretty cool. The teeth are ugly, I can definitely say that, but it's not the ugliest I've ever seen. The paintwork isn't really that great either. I think the color scheme they've chosen looks cool, and it looks, you know, fairly natural for a species like this, but the actual application of the paint isn't that great, because like the teeth are painted really poorly, the inside of the mouth is a bit sloppy, the eye paint, although it looks okay, is a little bit kind of like extended out further than it probably should be. The paintwork of the nails was really lazily done, where it's just kind of like a quick spray with an airbrush, and then we're past that point, and they didn't even get like the undersides of the nails in certain areas and everything like that. But that being said, this is sold for like $2 at Walmart, so if you take into consideration how much paintwork they actually did apply, even if it's not applied perfectly, even if it is applied a little sloppily, it's still really impressive to see the amount of effort that was put into this figure that's sold for as cheap as it is. So if you are interested in grabbing one of these for yourself, head to your local Walmart. They are just beginning to hit Walmarts right now, so, you know, there's no guarantee it'll be there, but if it's not there now, it should be hopefully soon, and you can snag yourself this very interesting Atrociraptor. Again, one last huge thank you to William Hogan, who is a viewer of the channel, who had helped to set me up with this figure and acquire it for me. So again, a huge thank you goes out to him. And again, make sure you check your local Walmart and snag this if you are interested. And also like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.